So, one, would you introduce yourself?
Oh, my name is Emotokare Ikogho, mother, grandmother, retired civil servant, and a farmer by God's grace.
Yes. So, and it's amazing because you'll be the first. Like I told you the other day, as a young, as a kid growing up, I really admired how you navigated life, and that's why while doing this, the first name that came to me, like sitting down with an adult in conversation, apart from my dad, was yours. So we'll just go straight to it, and as we navigate these questions, we'll find other conversations.
Okay,
Yes.
that's fine.
Okay. So I told them that you're an educator.
Yes.
You're retired. You're a businesswoman. Several. I see you as a very strong, independent-minded person. You're a mother, grandmother, you're a wife, you're a daughter. There's so many things, and they're like, oh, it's one person, and you're 60 something, and
Yeah.
that is interesting, right? So the first person asks the question like, what have you found to be the most important lesson to impart to students?
To students, to be confident of their own ability to get something done, to get the study done, because and to be able to rejoice in their own sense of creativity and innovation. Because I find out that we do a lot of rote learning here, and so the first thing I try to do is to break that down. So when I ask you a question, what do you want to be in a few years, and you tell me a doctor, a lawyer, I tell you, let's take a look at yourself. What do you enjoy? What do you do? How do you think? How do you dress, and so on and so forth. So I found out that quite a few of them embraced the idea, and they were able to um, internalize it and take it forward. And I try to bring parents into to help them on that journey. Not It's not an easy task where people are fixated on certain stereotyped rules, but I hope that wherever these students are, they will have taken these lessons to heart and they're practicing.
Well,
all those
I'm
things.
very sure. I'm very sure that you have students who reach out to you to tell you that you changed my life at this point.
I met a few. I actually met one outside my house a few years ago, and I looked at him. This was a student I taught in the 80s, and 20 something or 30 something years later, I still remembered his name. And so I called his name, and he looked at me and said, Ma, I don't look any different, from back when they were in school. And he told me, said, are you still the way you are? I said, well, I hope so. I should certainly hope so. He said, well, continue what you were doing, Ma. And it happened to be, this is a child who went to a local, what you would call back here, government school. He's a doctor in America. He's a medical doctor. And so he brought his wife over, introduced me, and we greeted, and I told him, I said, well, continue to do your best, and be your best, everything you try out.
Like, just even as a teenager, sometimes we would stumble on conversations with you, and you just make certain statements. I always used to be like, because I'm someone who, when I was in primary school, identified that my French teacher was like an amazing educator.
Okay.
And I was drawn to him, to the fact that when I moved school, I did everything within my power to bring him to my school.
Okay.
Yes, but it didn't just work because we were Nigerian, he was coming from Ugbo,
Okay.
it didn't work. But that's me. So I always used to be like, how come we do not have teachers who have conversations like this? Because I knew you were into, you were an educator then. So I always used to just like curious because you have gone through the educational system here and now you're retired. How many teachers would you say you've seen with this approach?
sometimes it's a skill. Let me just say that some skills are not inborn. You have to learn them and polish them. So when I became a teacher, I took it upon myself to become skilled at bringing the best out in children. And when I eventually became school head, I started doing that with my teachers. Yes, I would run seminars and workshops just to try and shape.
That means you introduced the initiative, not like the initiative was there.
No, I introduced all that benchmarking, mentoring, things that you could do elsewhere. For example, you are a teacher, you teach a topic, and there is a topic, a section of the syllabus you are not very grounded in. You could bring in another teacher from your department who is more grounded than yourself to do it. I used to call it guest teaching, and I told my staff there's no shame in it. Your students wouldn't know what's going on, or you just tell them that you have a guest teacher today, welcome, and the person takes, and that's it. Bottom line, the children are taught.
So it means it's not about you, it's about the students.
It's about the students, it's about what they get, because the students are the products of the system. They are the inputs and they are the products. So we are the processors.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's an interesting way to look at it. I do not have the best relationship with formal education. It's, for me, looking at the government and private. I know that there are some exceptions, just like you, but my general experience, me and just the people around me, I feel like a lot of things need to change, and it's frustrating that we do not have people like you who retire and go into policy, the policy making department of our government.
I don't think it's the policy. I think it's the approach. What we would call pedagogical approach in education.
Or implementation of the policy.
No, it's not the implementation of the policy. Okay. The policy could be okay that by the end of, so the child should know this, but the thing, it's the process we are talking about. How are you going to do it?
So who create those processes?
It's teaching styles. It's your style of teaching. That that I feel matters. Make learning fun.
So are we just going to say we trust our teachers to be as wide range as you, or can we create a system that forces the teacher to rise to at least a standard?
The latter, a system that makes the teacher what we want the teacher to be, I think would be best, and that was what I tried to do. Training. Yes. I happen to be deeply involved in literature in English as a subject, and when I was a school head, I really could not take the subject because of the burden of administrative duties. So I would tell the teacher, you just go ahead, I will come and help you with your final revision and finish. And my approach was this: make the learning fun. You get a teacher who will come to class and say, okay, we are going to do figures of speech, simile, metaphor, like, or as, and give examples. It's so dry. I took popular music into the classroom. And so there was this song, she too fine, she be like tomato juice and all that kind of thing. So I said, that girl is referred to as tomato juice. I said, that is a metaphor. What does tomato juice look like? They said, full, ripe, juicy. It looks exciting. You want to eat it. You want to touch it. You want to use it to cook. I said, that's a metaphor right there. And so I used music. I used all that to teach students. And so it got to a point where I would be busy in my office and I would see somebody outside demonstrating, like, we are free now, Michael. We are free. We have time, please.
Yes, because I think education should be exciting. It should be an exciting journey. because I found that outside of the formal education, everything that I do that I've learned, it was exciting for me to learn.
Yes.
And I'm still learning. Like I'm constantly like trying to read, trying to catch up with whatever would make me a better person professionally. And I just feel education should be that exciting. But my next question would be, it's easy for people to say, "Oh, I studied this, and this is what I do now." But when you meet certain people who are exceptional in what they do, my question is always, how did you identify that I want to be a teacher?
How did I identify I wanted to be a teacher?
How did you come to that conclusion? Because I know you as a very wide range person, creatively, and you could have taken any path.
Yeah. I settled for teaching because it gave me time for the family. Or close the same time as my kids and have the rest of the day with them. I didn't want to be away the whole day with their father also in private practice, away the whole day, and kind of values I would want to impart, I would not be able to do. I didn't want that.
But so that means you say it was like, now looking at how your career evolved, as an educator,
yes,
you say that it was like the best decision. Like
yes. I would say
you come to that conclusion now?
I would say so, yes. I could have done so many.
Yeah, I know.
I got other job offers because I got jobs at a time. I got a job at a time when people came to you when you were doing national youth service for employment. Yeah. We didn't look for the jobs. The jobs looked for us, But I settled on this one, and it was okay. Money is not. The money wasn't great. Wasn't great at all, but I had time.
But you didn't end up like this. You didn't end up like those people who, over time, the situation of the job, dampens their spirit. It was just this excitement about what you were doing.
I had chosen to be in the profession, and for me, if you are somewhere, make the best of it. You can't do half a life. I mean, you are here. You don't make the best of where you are, and you are busy looking over the fence at the other side. I mean, that's not living. So, make where you are a joy. It is possible. Make it a joy. Make it joyful. And I did, try my best to do that. I remember meeting a student of mine one day on the street. He thought I had car problems, and he was passing in his car, and he stepped on the brakes with his screeched to a halt in the middle of the street. "Hello, ma, what can I do for you? Do you have a problem?" I said, No. I stopped to say hello to someone. He said, okay. Have a nice day, ma. That particular student didn't do an assignment that I gave, and when the assignment was due and he didn't submit, I held him and I said, "Give me my assignment. You owe me. You must give me." And he was like,
why?
He looked at, said, "Why?" Then he was telling the other, "Tell this woman to leave me alone." I said, "I am not leaving you alone. You owe me this assignment, so you are going to do it whether you like it or not." So I had a tough time with a lot of those people, because those students I started my career with were the ones who started with the free education policy in 1980.
So you had every kind.
All kinds. Ex former mechanics, hawkers on the streets, ex commercial sex workers. They all came into school, overage, underage, all shapes, sizes, all kinds of temperaments, all kinds of states of consciousness, awareness. And so we had to deal with all of that. And so trying to really shape them was something else.
But just knowing you for who you are, I know that none of them felt judged by you. Like,
when you are a student, you meet a stern teacher, you think the person is, the way we put it in common parlance, wicked. But a lot of them left school and came back to thank me. I remember one did come back one day And I heard that this student was looking for me because I really gave him a hard time in school. Yes, I chased him all around, chased him everywhere for his assignment, chased him everywhere for his work, chased him for not coming to school early, chased him down, really followed him. And this young man came to me, and he's not a Yoruba person, but the way the Yoruba people greet, that is, you lie flat on the ground. And so here was I standing on the veranda, and this young man, who's, by the way, now taller than me, comes and he is prostrate, flat on the ground. I'm saying, what's going on? What's the matter? And he said, I came to thank you, ma. He said he was now, I think he had been admitted into the Nigerian Defense Academy. He was trained to be a soldier. And he said, he came to thank me for the discipline I had put him through. That it was because of that he could stand what he was going through, in the academy. It was really, really rigorous. And if he hadn't gone past through me, he would have, kind of like crashed out of the course. So he came to say, thank you. So there have been several like that, yes.
Well, just speaking with like peers, one of the things that I found out is that we never forget good teachers. We never. Like, you might go back and look for them. I particularly made those teachers who at the point in my life were exceptional. I made them realize that.
Okay.
I never left school without making sure that they knew. But the next question would be, in your career, the journey so far, what do you wish you would have wish to know sooner?
The challenges of when I became principal, I realized that I didn't know much.
The administrative side.
Yes, I had been vice principal for a long time, but when the responsibility of the full school fell upon my shoulders, I realized that I did not know much. And it was at that particular time I went to do a master's degree in educational administration, and there was such a wide gulf between current practice and what was supposed to be. And so when I finished that degree, I told myself, I said, you are going to take what you have learned and make a difference. And possibly, if you make a difference where you are, other people might look at you and
emulate it.
Yes.
That's another like striking thing. Your desire to inform and educate yourself.
Yes.
Because a lot of teachers who are within the primary, secondary educational system, you never see them go ahead to get a master's or a PhD. A lot of them, like, I would want to guess a majority don't even think that far. Maybe they're exceptional ones, but I always just was looking like, okay, she's doing like a master's now. Okay, it's always, you always have, even now as you're retired, I wouldn't be surprised if I hear, oh, you're doing something to learn something.
Oh yes, I'm doing. I'm wanting to enroll in a course for women entrepreneurs, being run. It's on a site called Coursera. Well,
okay. Yes, Coursera is very good.
Yes, so I want to enroll for that and follow through on it. I see where that takes me.
You see, so it's because for me,
learning never stops.
No, it doesn't. And when, let's say I go to do, like, produce a festival or even just a basic show, I've informed myself to a point where I can direct the light, I can direct the stage, I can direct the sound, and when I function like that, most, like, I'm talking to the sound engineer and the light person at the same time. They're looking at me strange, like, you're not supposed to know all of these things. So
why not?
Yes, and I keep telling them, like, why? This at the end of the day, the success of this show or the failure of this show ends up with my name, my face, everything. Why do you think I don't want to know every single thing that happens? So there's this particular person in Ghana that I collaborate and work with.
Yes.
He comes with a venue that I normally work with.
Yes.
For 3 years, this like guy, first time I gave him like a full chart, like between the first 20 minutes, this is the light chart, this is the light chart. I broke it down like that. He had never seen that
something
kind,
like
yes,
of preparation.
Yes, he had never seen it. It took him 3 years. Every year we would fight. And I'm telling him, it's my life. You're just the person to achieve.
Yes.
This. By the third year, he came to me one day and he was like, thank you. 3 years. so that's why when I'm looking at people who think different, I want to change the system, and I know that the system is flawed, and it's really something that we should celebrate when we see people within society that are not just sitting and embracing what is, but trying to find out what could be that difference.
Anything is possible. I always used to tell my students, I've been principal of schools in a village setting, and I used to tell the students that your brain is not inferior to the brain of the children in unity schools. The difference is maybe your facilities, the facilities that you have.
Yeah.
I said the teachers you have are just as qualified. If it's a question of facilities, if it's equipment, I would go out and I would look for the equipment. I will look for it, and I would make sure I bring you. There was a student who consistently, for the time I was heading a particular school, always made the finals of the Awokoya chemistry competition. He has graduated from University of Benin now.
Wow.
He always, and that's my village champion. So, the finals of the national. He always made the national finals.
Wow.
Always.
That's nice. So, this would be like a 2-part question. Do you think that those you left behind, like let's take your school,
yes,
do you think that they've continued on that same path that you left?
I get messages from former colleagues as teachers, vice principals, telling me how much they miss me. So there's really no one like you. The last school I left, because I got into the habit of running a lot of programs, both for teachers and students. And the person who took over from me wasn't into all of that. And the teachers had gotten used to that. Because I would plan the academic program for the full session. And at the first meeting, I would ask everybody to bring out their calendars. And I would break it down step by step. We're going to have a test on so. Your deadline for submitting questions is this day. And my staff know that don't miss that deadline. They got to learn. They got to learn that you don't miss my deadlines. Do not miss the deadline, because that's why I'm giving you all these dates now. So put the dates on your phone, get everything. Then I had some VPs. We used to have management meetings every Monday. We don't have to be a big corporation to function like one, but I found that it helped, administration. Yeah. So we'd have a management meeting, look over challenges we had the previous week, look at the focus for the next week, ask ourselves, what we needed to do. My VPs got to realize that you never brought any problem to me. You don't bring your problems to me, please. If there's a problem in the classroom, it goes the first line of defense is the form teacher. If she can't handle it, then she goes to the year head. Yes, if the year head can't handle it, then it goes to vice principal. If vice principal can't handle it, if it's a behavioral problem, then they bring in the school counselor. If they can't handle it before it finally comes to me.
Follow the channel.
I told them at a meeting, I said, I am not the problem solver. So you do not bring your problem, so we all solve the problem. The reasoning behind that is that I was training everybody to be able to be creative. Sometimes you need to find a creative solution to certain problems, and I gave them the opportunity to do that. Background to all of this is, before I would do that, when I first come into the school, I will give everybody the laws, education laws. Are you aware of it? Are you aware of your rights, your duties, your obligations? You have to know, so you know where to draw the line,
Like,
and you know where you tell a parent or a child to draw the line. So we're not flying blind. Because I told them, I said, you might meet a parent who's enlightened enough to sue you, and we do not want that. So know where you draw the line. Know what you're supposed to do at any point in time. And so that's so I brought, it's kind of,
Yeah.
so I found out that even if I would not be in school for a week, if I had to go for a conference or anything, school would run seamlessly. There was there was a time we were on strike. National Union of Teachers called a strike, and so
Yeah.
we were on strike. But before we went on strike, because of my dates and
you were
deadlines,
already planned.
exam questions were ready.
Wow.
Ready. The answer sheets were ready. My VP academic had done the timetable. So I told her, I said, we are going to be ready for, because I think they called the strike a week to exam. But we were all fully ready. So all we just did was we carry the packets of the exam questions will be counted class by class, labeled
Yeah.
with the name of the invigilator, the supervising year head, everything well labeled. We just counted them, we just carried everything and stored away. I wasn't around when school was, I had to be away. When suddenly they said, oh, resume school on Monday.
Mm.
So schools resume on Monday, and by Monday afternoon they said there were certain exams on Tuesday. Come Tuesday morning, I shared school premises with two other schools as at that time.
Yeah.
Teachers and principal were scrambling in the other side. My students were writing
Confused.
exams.
Yes.
My students were seated. My end of the school was quiet. Students were writing exams. I think it made such a great impression on them. Other teachers came to ask my VPs, how come? How come people were so prepared?
Prepared.
What happened? How did you guys do it? And the lady said, you don't know my principal. She doesn't take chances. She is always prepared. She prepares way ahead of something. She said, as a matter of fact, all our material for the next term, everything
Done.
is set,
Ready.
is ready. She's not a last minute person. So planning. A friend told me very many years ago, 5 P's. And I took those 5 P's to heart. Proper planning prevents poor performance. I don't like poor performance. I don't like it at all. So if I'm an administrator and if I'm supposed to head the place, then I should head it properly. So the principal next to me, the next school, when I came, he sent for me. I went to his office. He said, Madam, please, henceforth. Because he noticed that at the beginning of term, first day of term, when I would do briefing. Everybody would get calendar, because they now told him, said, this is what I heard, this is what you do, this is what you do. I said, yes. He said, really? Please, when you run your meeting first day, please let me have synopsis of what you've discussed, so I can build. And so, yes. So before I would run my meetings, I now decided before I run, I would call him and say, look, sir, this is what we're doing, this is what I'm going to discuss, this is what I'm going to discuss, this is what we're going to do. And push the term forward.
He put his school first, because a lot of people have egos.
So he picked up from me, and in a short while, his school was running like mine. I had a parent that waited 2 years to put her child in my school.
Wow.
Yes. She came the first year we had closed admissions, and I wasn't going to take over and above the number of students I had calculated per class that I felt we could handle. I wasn't going to go above that figure. And so my vice principal academics told her, the next school is still admitting, and she said no, she's not taking her child there. The next year, she came back, I think the day after we had closed admissions, and my VP told her, we've closed admissions. She began to cry. She began to cry. She had waited a whole year to put this child here. And now she has come, and we tell her that the admission has closed. Why are we doing this to her? So I heard the whole commotion outside, and I came out, Madam, what is it? And she was in tears, and she told me, I told the VP, I'd make an exception, put that boy in class.
It's when you're good, it goes. People notice.
My schools had the reputation of, how would I say? They would say the school run like a private school on government premises. Well, I just felt that I was doing what was supposed to be done. That's all.
That's the
all.
standard. That's
That's
the
all.
standard. So you talked about settling for teaching so that you have time for the home.
Yes.
So there's this question that actually touches that. How did you balance career, marriage, motherhood, and business?
Okay, at the time, I realized that the money from teaching wasn't propping up, our finances the way. So I had to go into business. So I started with fashion business, which I do up till date.
Yes.
Started fashion business in 1980.
Amazing designer you are.
Thank you. I started the fashion business in 1989. But I didn't let it grow too big, so I could still have time.
Yes.
Well, I just kept it small and pretty exclusive. So I run it from home too.
Yes.
So I would go to work, come back, and start work. The kids would be around me. I'd be able to supervise homework, supervise all what they were doing, and so I was able to everything. I was able to balance everything.
Because people look at it and be like, how did you do all of that and still run a business?
I had to run a pretty regimented life. For example, that habit is still with me till today. If I have to go somewhere 2 or 3 days before, the clothes are ironed and ready. So on Saturday or Sunday, all the clothes for the week, all the uniforms of the week will be ironed, will be folded. They'll all be set, so that in the morning you just pick up, wear, and so that everything will just be on time. And so I've pretty much kept to that. Put my time in time blocks. I get from school, I work in my shop till maybe 10 p.m. Between 10 and 11, if there's any laundry that I would sit down, fold it, set the table for breakfast the next morning. Yes. I would do all that. Wow. Yeah, set the table for breakfast the next morning. So I would just wake up, the children would just have their bath. The table would already be set. I would have arranged all the things I want to put in their lunch boxes the night before. And so because of that, I don't sleep early. I've gotten used to that. I sleep about midnight. It's been a decades-long habit.
And you wake up early too?
Now that I'm retired, no.
Okay.
Now that I'm retired, no.
So you changed that part of...
Well, the kids have all grown up, gotten married and left home. So there's really no rush.
In the morning. So, as a mother now, going back into your teenage years and raising teenage kids, and now observing teenagers, these 3 generations, what do you think has changed?
Teenagers are still teenagers. It's just that the social environment has evolved. There are more distractions now. In my time, there was nothing like social media. In my kids' time, there was really nothing like social media either. What we had was television. And the television wasn't 24 hours the way it is now. Now you have cable TV, there's YouTube, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's all kinds of things. So I think if I were to have a teenager now, I would have to make sure I was really up to date. Well, I'm still up to date.
Up to date.
I'm up to date on what's
very, very up to date.
I'm up to date on what's
Yes.
going on.
You are. Because from Accra, I can see that you're up to date.
I'm up to date on what's. I like to keep my finger on the pulse.
Yeah, because I think you still deal with young people.
Yes, I do.
In different ways.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I remember I was at a seminar in university campus, and my phone was open, and the one of the young men saw that I was playing a game, and he said, they call me Mama. Mama, you play games. So I told him, I said, you think I'm too old to play games? What is wrong with you? Please don't come here and spoil my shine. So he laughed and went away. So I play games. But I see that for a lot of our young people who do not know how to manage their time, these games can be addictive. Social media is addictive, and you have to teach these younger ones how to balance their time. I tell them that I tell them that social media doesn't run away, but the time which they're supposed to use to learn a few things that would help them grow into mature, responsible adults, the time clock is ticking.
Yeah.
And there are new things every day anyway, so why be fixated on what's happening today?
That's interesting, because the question I was going to ask is connected to that. I was going to say,
Yeah.
what line do you think has continued? Like, specifically, do you think made you a better teenager that you gave to your kids and you could give to young parents now?
I don't know about being a better teenager.
Or
One
just
one thing.
guidance.
Yes, one thing. I think I taught my kids would be to value the advice of somebody who is much older and much more experienced. Never discount advice that you are given. It might not sit well with you, might not go down well with you, but probably that person who has had more experience in life is seeing things from a much wider perspective than yourself, because you do not have the depth of experience that an older person has had. You have not had the same level of human interactions that person has had. And so when somebody tells you, gives you maybe a little advice or some suggestions, you would have to take a second look at it. Sometimes also the manner in which the suggestion is given matters a lot. One thing I learned was the way my father gave advice. He never said, you must do this.
Yeah.
When you ask why, he will say, because I'm your father and I said so. No. He would say, don't you think it would be better if you did it this way or that way? And we all learned pretty fast.
Yeah.
That if he said, don't you think you should try it
You
like
mean
this?
think again.
That would actually be the best way
Oh, I see.
to do it. So that was one of the things growing up that I imparted
With your kids.
with my kids and others. Because a teenager is very strong-headed. They are just coming into their sense of self-identity. And they are not yet adults, but they are not kids either. And so they have all those hormones raging, all those sense of I can do it by myself. I'm coming into my own. Meanwhile, they cannot.
Yeah.
And so you ease
Soft
the
pedal.
advice. Yes, you ease the advice. You could be very firm, but you ease the advice in quite gently.
So
Just one more thing. Then, as a parent, bringing up kids, one thing I learned was something my mother told me when the kids were very, very young. So never make a promise and break it, so the children don't forget. So I try to keep to all that, So I tried not to promise. If I know I'm not going to be able to afford something, I don't promise. Or I will tell them when I can, I will.
That's very important.
Yes. So that you maintain your I don't know what I call it, integrity and respect. A lot of people do not think, a lot of parents actually think that the children ought to respect. They demand respect. Respect is earned.
Earned. Yeah.
You may be the parent, but you earn the respect of your kids, whether you realize that or not.
So, in terms of like your journey so far, if you're just going to take the same journey, if you're going to do it all over again, is there something that you've, or few things that you've identified that I would have done this different, I would have done that different?
That's a deep question. What would I do differently? Maybe I was pretty involved with the kids. Maybe I would take my involvement maybe to a deeper level. Not because I wasn't involved, but just take it, really take it much deeper. Also, I'll find time to be more celebratory.
I see. That's important. That's important. That's the reason why I like to travel. Because for me, that does it for me. That's where I celebrate. I always tell people I enjoy work. So everything I enjoy has a sense of seriousness to it. When I travel, it's just I'm not trying to achieve something. If any travel I make is that journey just gives me the freedom to just enjoy.
Yes.
And just see people. And for me, that's how I celebrate. I move. Yeah. It's very important. It's very, very important. So let's come to gender.
Okay.
Yes. What kind of gender development have you observed, and how do you think gender within our society context has improved or not? The gender balance.
One thing I would I happened to be in a conversation yesterday with somebody on Facebook. Somebody put up a question. The question went like this: if as a single lady, the person just said as a single lady. It was a statement. It wasn't a question. Yes. So as a single lady, if you had bought property like a piece of land, so when you get married, to demonstrate your faithfulness, you should hand over the property to your husband. And I said,
wow,
where did you miss the bus?
People do things like that.
I said, but where did you miss the bus? And this young man, I don't know whether he was angry. He said, what do I mean? He said, but if the man buys property, both your name should be on it, right? Then okay. So if anything happens now, the woman should not be entitled to inherit property. The husband's siblings should come and cut away the property if anything happens to the man. So I now told the young man, let's stick with the narrative. A young single lady, she's capable enough to earn good money, buy a piece of land, survey it, register it with Ministry of Lands and Surveys, probably get her C of O. And just because she's married, she suddenly becomes incapacitated. She's no longer capable of looking after her own property. I mean, how does that figure? I mean, it has no relationship
at all
with marital loyalty. My holding on to my property documents prior to marriage, I mean, it's not the man's duty to monitor my land documents. I mean, what is wrong with you? So I see a lot of that these days. I see a lot of young men being threatened because of the emerging economic independence of women. And I think a lot of them are mistaken in their insecurity.
Just to add to that before you continue. So within my platform, we do, for me, I feel men largely have misplaced women within society because of the power struggle. So when we do document and conversations, I tend to try to have more women because we need more voices from that perspective,
Yes.
from that side of things. And I always get this, oh, this might become too toxic, women this, women that, women. I'm like, what are you really afraid of? That now women can speak, or what? Like, what really? Because they are speaking from their own experience. And how do you diminish that just because you are not comfortable with what they're saying?
We find a lot of that going on. For example, you will find a young lady who's successful in her career. She has a house, she has a car, and people will tell her that you can't get a husband because you can't submit to the husband. So I told somebody, I had this conversation a few days ago. I said that word submit. Never came up in the talks. With the talks I had with my parents about marriage. What came up was thoughtfulness, mutual respect.
Yeah.
But submissiveness was never a word that was told to me when I was getting married. Respect the man. There should be that mutual respect, be thoughtful for each other, but that a man would now expect that, because what qualifies you to be, the fact that you are a man doesn't mean that you are endowed with natural intelligence, that your IQ is higher because you are now a husband. No, that is the way a lot of men look at it.
Yes.
Your IQ is higher. What happens is that maybe the woman is economically disadvantaged, or she comes from a home where there isn't much money and you have money.
Yeah.
You might not be more intelligent than herself if you were given the same opportunities. You may not. She could dust you in every field.
That's true.
Business acumen, creativity, intelligence, IQ, she could beat you hands down. So the fact that she's a woman doesn't put her under your feet. And I think that is where you have a lot of this emerging incidents of domestic violence, because a lot of men believe that they should be top dog in all situations. And for heaven's sake, the woman is a partner, not some footmat, not somebody who you just hand down your decisions and she has to follow because you have paid what they say you've paid a bride price and you've paid some amount of money, and because of that you don't buy intellect. If you could buy intellect, go and buy intelligence now. Go and buy it. You can't buy it. So why would you say that you subjugate a whole human being because you paid 100 naira, 2,000 naira, 10,000?
So this is my problem with the bride price, the idea of it. I don't have a problem with traditional marriage or anything, but I do have a problem with the idea of that bride price, because it has transitioned from what it used to be to now just basic transactional. It's just now basic transactional. It's like men come out of it thinking, I bought this person, and for me it's just too complex, and I don't feel anybody should be made to think that way, or made to feel like, yes, I should answer to him because he paid my bride price. I was speaking with I was observing, I was in conversation with some women.
Yes.
And a third lady came in. She had a baby. So they started having a conversation with her. And this was the conversation. She had a baby, she had a store, she's a market woman. And she's like, they said, why you never come market since? They say, my husband said, cannot come. So make her close the store. Why? They say, I must take care of the baby. And they were like, but you will take care of for market now. At least people where you will feel even give. A lot of people where they take care of children for this market.
Yes.
They say, we cannot bring the pikin come market, anything, we can stay out with the pikin. And these two women who were giving ideas automatically just said, if he say make you not do it, I be man, listen to him. carry the chicken go out, go stay. And for me, it just pierced my heart.
Mm.
And I didn't want to add to it. I was just like, I didn't have time. I knew that if I opened my mouth to say anything, it would have been this very long conversation. And I felt really bad. And I think a lot of women are subjected to that thing. Because when you go back to the people who are supposed to push you, they'll be like, it's a system. Because a lot of women also have been trained within the patriarchy system, and they don't know that this is wrong. And I just feel this leads to the question of independence. How did you become this independent within? I'm not talking about your home now, just within the larger society. How did you become this independent, stay this independent, and how can more women become? Obviously, there are a lot of independent women out there, but we need more, because we have more, then society would be forced to pay attention to issues.
If you want something, fight for it. Take it. Yes. Years ago, we had a male colleague who felt that women are not supposed to eat in public, like go to restaurants to have lunch.
Wow.
And so on and so forth. And he just said that a woman who does that must be a loose person. We descended, a few of us descended on him.
It should have.
We descended on him, that he should take his village mentality and stuff it. Then that was the 20th century. Now we are in the 21st. So a lot of women are afraid to be labeled as being stubborn, intractable, rebellious, and losing the cover of the marriage title. You choose what you want. You choose what you want. You can be yourself. You can be yourself. You can truly be yourself, and not be. If you want to go that way, you have to have a. Yes, as we say in Nigeria, you have to have enough liver to be able to withstand some of the criticism. Being combative doesn't help the situation. So it's holding on to your dignity and having a clear focus of what kind of message you want to put across and sticking with that narrative. Like that young man who talked so rudely. I didn't mind his language. I went back and said, let's stick with the narrative and follow the storyline from there.
Yes.
That is what I am talking about. I said, if after marriage they both choose to put their names jointly on any documents, that's a joint decision. So I told him, I said, I would advise him to go and read property rights law as it obtains here. I said, it's not a matter of what you feel, what you think
the law
should obtain. Be conversant with what the law here states. Property rights law has changed in this country. Now, there have been some rulings where if you've lived with a man in a house, contributed to it financially, maintenance, everything, he can't just throw your stuff out.
Yes.
No. There's court ruling to that effect now.
Great.
There's precedent.
Like a lot of mothers just were thrown away. So
you can't do that now. It's not possible. You don't do that. So much has changed.
So there's advancement.
Yes, so much has changed. Yes, so it's up to you to know what's what, and stop listening to what I would call the word on the streets, anecdotal opinions of people. Those are
yourself.
Be informed. Know what your know what you are entitled
You see,
to. Your entitlement is.
The man family come, they throw come out. That can happen.
No, if
Like you can fight that.
you can, if you and so I'm surprised you now find some people would come on. There's a forum I belong to. They come on and say, "Oh, this is what has happened. What they are learning how to do. This and that." I said, "Get a sound lawyer. What is wrong with you? Get a lawyer. Get a lawyer, and fight this thing."
Okay. So rounding up 4 questions. Say, does being a woman help or frustrate the effort of being successful financially?
Whether does it help or frustrate the effort?
Like, so far now, with your experience.
Yeah, I enjoy financial success and freedom. It has not frustrated me at all.
Because you've not allowed it.
Not at all. Why would it frustrate me? What's the meaning of the word frustrate? That's what happened. According to Rabbi Okhiogbe, what is that? You know, so I know you find out that some women don't want to push, don't want to be ambitious, so they don't seem to be more successful than their husbands. They should be seen to be kind of like under him all the time, propping him up. And I ask them, what's wrong with propping yourself up? You can prop him up if you want. Yeah. It's okay. It's a partnership. But you have a right. You deserve also to be as successful, as your partner is. And like I said, there is nothing like if a woman is successful, the man can't control her. No. If in your partnership you have mutual respect, that aspect of I'm controlling or he's controlling does not arise. Does not arise at all. And there are a lot of marriages that succeed like that. The man helps the woman succeed. The woman in turn also pushes to help him succeed. Yes. So it's only somebody who is backward thinking, who is retrogressive, that would think in terms of that the woman shouldn't be financially successful, or that a financially successful woman must have had to sleep her way to the top. She doesn't have to.
All of these stereotypes and narratives.
She doesn't have to. There was somebody who saw me a couple of years ago and said, madam, you seem to be having so much fun. You have hit it big. You are this, you are that. And he said, he was going to bring his youngest child to me to help. So I said, sit down, let me talk to you. I told him a few things about myself. I said, you see this thing called money? Money doesn't know whether you're doing dirty work. Yes. I told him, I said, you see me with all my makeup and fine. I said, I know how to fry gari. He said, Mama, you're not serious. I said, yes. I said, I've done all that. I have been there and done that. I have businesses which have succeeded. I have done the ones which have failed. Yeah. I have lost money. I have gained money. I said, but in it all, I have looked at myself and told myself that I can do it.
Yeah.
I said, so it's not about because I'm a woman and maybe I look attractive, things are easy. I said, I've had to work for every single penny that I have made. And I have been willing to work hard.
Even work harder than the man.
You find out that if you're a woman in business, you have to work harder to prove yourself than most men. Because the patriarchal environment, in a patriarchal society, people are just waiting for you to fail.
That's why that's why it's hard for them to believe that you're successful without sleeping or doing anything. Like,
without having the help of a man.
And how did you do it?
And that's not it at all.
In the conversation I had with a group of men, one of them was like, for a woman to be successful, a man has to open the door. And I looked at her, I was like,
no, a man doesn't have to open the door.
What?
She can find an open door herself.
Yes. She
can find those doors, keep them open, stick her foot in it, and keep the door open to get what she wants and what she needs.
Yeah. I truly, because I had a mother who was like really, really firm in terms of whatever she wanted to achieve, she would achieve it regardless of who. So from there, I just felt like this idea of being submissive, the women being lower than the, I never just agreed with that. Never. And I think I'm happy that I remain like that. For me, I see women as equal. So I always, for me, it's always a battle. Like if myself and my partner, if we go out and we're having lunch or dinner or whatever, for the past 5 years, you just see they'll come with like the bill, for instance, and they put it right in front of you.
Okay.
Those moments, I always see them as teaching moments.
Okay.
Like, so why have you placed the bill in front of me? Like, what have you assumed?
Yeah, that you are the man and
Yes,
you're going
like,
to pay.
Oh,
And if you've taken her out.
a lot of times they are shocked. Like, oh, I say, so what have you assumed? Do you know our pockets here? Do you know who's paying? And at the end of the day, most of them end up apologizing. And if we go back to that same place, they pay attention to it.
Okay.
So for me, it's I think it's we as men, and this is why these conversations I'm having are important. We as men, we've created the patriarchy system. Men also, as women are breaking it down, men also need to break down the system, because we, even if I'm not directly a part of it, indirectly I'm a part of it some way, some form. And I just feel we need to do better. Actually, I feel we just need to do better. And my next question would be, in the last 30 to 40 years, what are the changes that you've observed, like those very serious ones that you feel either good or bad, doesn't really matter, but those strong societal change that has occurred in the last?
Women are coming into their own. Hey,
Oh, wow.
yeah. A lot of women are
That's good news, though.
more focused educationally and building themselves in business, which is good.
Good. Yeah.
But there's one thing I've always told people, 'cause when they talk about a woman being a housewife, I said it's only in the Nollywood movies.
I see that.
I said traditionally, our women have never been housewives.
No.
You either fished, traded,
So many things to do.
went to the farm, you were a farmer. I said you had to do something to support the home.
Yes.
I said traditionally.
Yes.
I said, so this housewife staying at home and doing nothing is a creation of is a modern day invention.
Yeah.
We never had housewives in my grandmother's time. You had to have an occupation.
Yes.
No matter how small, you did something to support the home. So we didn't have housewives as it were in those days.
I think that was like imported by the illegal immigrants.
That came with on the heels of religion,
Yes.
of Orthodox religion as we know
Yes.
it. Same thing to this language of submission, but well, that's by the
Yes.
side.
That's true.
So one other thing that I have seen is our young ones throwing caution to the wind when it comes to sexual license. They ought to be a bit more careful,
Okay.
show a little bit more restraint.
Okay.
Relationships aren't about getting naked.
Hmm.
Can you stay with this person? Sleeping with the person, having a sexual relationship, it's just a little bit
Of what the relationship
of
is.
what the relationship is all about. It's not the main thing. It's part of it, but it's not all there is to offer. There should be a meeting of hearts and minds. Because if that is not there, you will find that no matter how good the sex is, that relationship is going to break down.
Yeah.
Because you depend on each other. Relationships are about needing something from the other person. No matter how independent you are, if you are in a relationship, there is something you get from the other person and there's something the person gets from you. Sometimes it's just having a good intellectual conversation. So if, for example, one of you is intellectual and the other one is not, for how long will the sleeping take place for you to realize that there's a mismatch? But you find out that riding on the back of sexual license is the idea of using one another, because there's such ill will or ill feeling at the end of the day because of that, specifically. So don't hurry into being sexual. Take your time to get to know the person and see if you actually enjoy each other's company before you want to take it further, because that's just sexual chemistry, really nothing much more than that, so don't be in too much of a hurry. And then you find out a lot of young men, because they haven't learned to restrain. You need to learn to restrain yourself.
It's something you have to learn.
It's something you have to learn. I tell some young people sometimes, say, I used to say pigeon, say no be as person body they itch, now they take the scratcher. So there are certain times you have an itch, you don't scratch it, so you don't draw blood. You just do that, so that it calms down. So you need to learn to restrain yourself, to study yourselves before you go so deep. Because for me, that is the last bus stop. But many of them make it the first.
I see. Yeah.
Many of them make it the first, and that's not good. That's not good enough. And for a lot of young men, I don't know where this thinking comes from. You think that because you bought a young lady shawarma and a bottle of Coke, you are now entitled to a full sexual escapade. And I ask, when did sex become currency?
Transactional.
Yes, when did it become the currency with which you pay for food? You have a meal, you have dinner, you have good conversation. Isn't that something?
Yeah, that should be enough.
And you enjoy each other's company over the meal, even if you paid for it. Why do you think that you must go to bed with somebody because you bought her a plate of rice? How much is rice? That's what I used to tell girls, the young ladies, when I was still in the system. How much is a plate of rice? You will be able to afford this rice if you get yourself an education and you are working. You will now see that this plate of rice is nothing. A bottle of Coke is nothing. It's nothing. So why go so far and feel so? Because a lot of young men, it's for them, it's kind of like winning, then they'll be hailing each other, sharp guy, sharp shooter, and so on and so forth. So you are just another statistic. So I would encourage a young man not to behave that way. It's not useful. It's not a useful talent to you. And for the young ladies to exercise some restraint and a lot of them these days are just greedy. It's greed that fuels that. The young man is greedy. He just wants to have as many women. And then you now see these girls who, because she knows that is what the young man is after, she goes there and says, let's drain his pocket. And so you invite her for lunch, and she comes around with 3 of her friends. They eat all the food they can eat, and then order takeaway for their whole village. So that at least even so for them they've made it worth it. And I'm thinking, how stupid can you get? Stupid young man and stupid ladies. Why? So these are some of the things. Be
accountable.
Having that self-worth and pride. Pride in oneself is so greatly diminished these days. So greatly diminished.